Hey guys, welcome to our Love Fast broadcast. We are back. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about,
I forgot to put my shoes on. So you see my
she's
toes.
barefooted. She has cute feet, so it's all good. Today we are going to be talking about parenting. And, sometimes when we come on here, we're not necessarily talking about specific things relating to Love Fast, Live Slow. It kind of just shapes everything we do. But as we kind of progress and we put out more of these things and we work on some other things we have in the works, that's redundant. But we're just going to be sharing sometimes our heart with you. And so we're parents of two beautiful boys and a little girl that's not quite here yet, but will be in about a month. Almost 2 months. No, yeah, 2 months. And so,
Yeah, 2 months.
but we struggle as parents. We have struggles daily. And so some of you guys know a little more than others about us, but I'll just tell you, my hair is really high. I don't know what's happening up here.
No, I don't think it's high.
So, some of you guys know more about our story maybe than others, but we have two little boys, Everett, who will be 3 in December, and Leland, who was 5 back in July. And Leland has some extra things that we have to focus on in life. I don't by any sort of stretch want to make it sound like we have it harder than anyone else, because Lord knows, like, we are very blessed. We have incredible kids, and we know that there are a lot of folks out there, some of you even listening, who have far, far, far more challenges when it comes to parenting than what we have. But what we have is what we have, and so we use that. We learn from it. God uses it to teach us. I think that's the coolest part, is that God uses our little 5-year-old boy and the struggles that he has and the struggles that we have with him to teach us and to grow us into the parents and people that he wants us to be. So Leland has some sensory and emotional and behavioral delays. If you are around him at any given point, you may or may not ever notice it. But if you're around him long enough, you would notice it. And so we have some things that we've had to deal with and learn that maybe are different than what a lot of other people have to go through as parents, but maybe not so much. I'm not sure that it's necessarily different or even more challenging. Let me say that I'm not necessarily sure it's more challenging, but just different. But for us, it certainly seems more challenging at times.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to talk a little bit about parenting, godly parenting. We are not experts. We fail daily, and we make mistakes regularly. But we listened to a really, really great podcast a few weeks ago by a guy named J.D. Greer. Yeah. And he was talking about when it comes to parenting, what is the goal of discipline? And, we've had people tell us that maybe we should just wear our boys out more. Maybe we should just not be show so much grace or whatever. And a lot of times what people perceive us as showing,
all of the above.
Yeah, oh yeah, we have. And a lot of times what people perceive as us showing grace is us just trying to keep our sense about us long enough to get him home so that we can discipline him the way that maybe they think we should. But to be honest with you, and not to be a jerk, but there are times when I just get sick and tired of somebody else telling me what they think I should do with my son.
And he's saying that because we're not doing that here. We are. Our attempt to make a video about parenting, a Love Fast broadcast about parenting, is not to say this is what you should do. This is simply an open door in our home and saying this is what we have done that has worked or hasn't worked for us. None of that really matters because every family is different, every child is different, every response to discipline is different. Yeah. But biblically, God does say disciplining a child in the way he should go. So I just think, what have we done, babe, to focus on teaching our sons and daughters soon to be about behavior or obedience being an example of how they're going to respond to God with a heart issue instead of just a action-oriented behavior issue. Yeah,
so the kind of the premise of the podcast we listened to the other day with J.D. Greer was that, a lot of times discipline, even from godly parents, is geared towards directing your student, your child,
student pastor.
Your child towards a behavioral change based on better choices, or just better decision making, or not being bad. And you know, I am really guilty. I'm very guilty of parenting that way. But what JD talked about, and talked about it so well, was that when we parent, our goal should not be behavior modification, because behavior modification is only effective for so long before someone reverts back to their nature. And so,
truly, it's, I didn't interrupt you, babe. I think about behavior modification as being like only if there's consequences. Like our son is very smart. Both of them are. Okay, both of our kiddos are smart.
Yeah, Leland's smarter than ever.
Because he's older. But I just think like Leland will respond certain ways because he knows the consequence. But does he respond certain ways because he feels guilty about it, or because he knows that it's selfish to act that way because it will affect the family? And I feel like that is more of the character that I want to develop as a young man, instead of you will behave this way because there's an immediate consequence that will affect your happiness or immediate joy. Like, we're going to take away a privilege that he has, whether it's screen time or phone time or pool time or taking away a treat after dinner. And if we take those things away, he pitches a fit, but then in his mind he thinks, well, okay, I won't do this because of the consequence. Not a bad correlation, but a better correlation that I would like to instill in my boys, who are soon to be young men, is to pursue what God says they should do, which, as you know, growing up, I mean, Leland's only 5, so that's our oldest son, but I see him as he's getting like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, even like the teenage years, he's going to have to make his own decisions. And I want him to have that character trait of knowing right and wrong biblically and obeying God, and what that does to God's heart if he disobeys, instead of just saying, well, I got away with that because nobody caught me.
Yeah, and so Leland is, let me put in perspective how manipulative this little guy can be. He's 5 now. When he was 3 years old, I tried to explain to him what grace was. I'm always trying to teach my kids, about the gospel, about Jesus, about grace, about mercy, about sin. And 3 years old, okay? And he comes home from school. I don't remember what he had done or what had happened, but I remember looking at him. He's in the backseat of the car, and I'm like, Leland, why did you do whatever? Yeah, ... Why did you do this? Why did you have this mistake today? Or why did you act in this way? And he kind of looked at me and he goes, I don't know, but it's okay because you're going to give me grace, right, Daddy?
And we were like,
yeah, talk about like a backfire. Like, whoa. It's not. Then I had to try to like read in Romans 6. Like, what should we say? Should we continue in sin that grace may abound? Certainly not. How can we who died to sin live in it any longer? No, I didn't.
What?
But I mean, like, think about it. I think he was 3 at the time. He might have been 4, but I'm pretty sure he was almost 4, but he was still 3 when that happened.
He's using grace against us.
It's like using grace against us. And then we listened to another pastor that we love to read after and listen to, Matt Chandler, talk about, like, you should have no grace in parenting until they're like 10 years old.
Yeah,
so lay the law,
we did that at the same time.
Yeah, until 10, and then start to introduce grace. And so, we already made the mistake of not doing that.
I kind of liked it, though, because that was like black and white. Like, sorry, son, these are the rules. And I get it. Some of you guys might have done that, and that's why you're probably better parents than we are. But we've always been like, what do we do? How do we do this? We haven't gone back and forth as far as our parenting style, but, you know, when you have a child, everyone's child is unique. Everyone has a unique personality. So we can offer a certain discipline tactic to Leland, and it will not work on our youngest 2.5-year-old, Everett. We can offer something to Everett, and it will not work on Leland.
Right. So
we are kind of unraveling these layers and saying, we are the parents. Remind ourselves, we are in charge. We are the parents. We will not let them rule over us. And because of that, this is our home. These are our rules. And if you break the rules, that's your consequence. I always tell Leland, that was your choice. He's like, I don't want this consequence. And I say, Leland, it was your choice. Do you know the rules? Yes. Well, then you chose to break our rules, so you chose to accept the consequence.
Right. The consequence is a choice that you make by the action that you do. So, you know, our goal in parenting is not then to modify behavior based on consequence, although necessary, okay? Although, you know, consequences are always necessary and are something that we have to teach. Our goal then should be that we would teach our children to, or I say teach our lead our children to understand that the only thing that's going to change sinful behavior is a modification of the heart. And the only thing that can modify the heart is a relationship with Jesus. And so, you say, well, what do you do? What do you do with that when your kid's 2 and 3 and 4, when they don't even understand that yet? Well, you're always leading in that direction. You're always alluding to those things. And first of all, let me just say this. Kids are way more aware than we probably give them credit for at 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 in terms of the gospel. Neither one of my boys have acknowledged really their understanding of grace and the gospel to the extent that I would love for them to do at an early age in their life. However, I think Leland is old enough and understanding enough that he absolutely could have a relationship with Jesus, and he knows the right things to say. He understands what Jesus did and who Jesus is. I don't necessarily understand that he understands the depth of sin yet, and I don't think you can really understand grace in a saving way until you understand sin in a condemning way. But our goal is to lead our children to understand the condemning consequences of sin. And you're like, well, how do you do that? Well, we don't know yet either. I mean, we're learning this as we go. But we do know a couple things that the Bible says, that we should train up a child in the way he should go, that when he is old, he will not depart from it. In other words, if we are consistent in our, is that Proverbs 27? I probably just completely got that wrong.
I'll look it up.
But train up a child in the way he should go, when he's old, he will not depart from it. We know that we are constantly leaning into the Scripture and helping our kids hopefully lean into the Scriptures. We want our kids to see Jesus in us, and we want our kids to see us display Jesus to others. And so,
just like Paul said, follow me as I follow him.
Yeah.
It's like we want our kids, we do not have the power nor wisdom in and of ourselves to lead our children to Christ. We are literally just trying to be a mirror and a looking glass to Christ. Say, okay, Nick, if you and I follow Jesus, you can look it up. If Nick and I are pursuing God, praying, surrendering, asking for our own forgiveness and grace as we walk through this world of growing children, raising men, then if we are pursuing God, let's just allow and believe that God gives us grace, has mercy on us and the mistakes that we might make as parents. Because we've made parenting mistakes, as I'm sure you have, because we're human. And if Leland and Everett, and soon to be our little girl, follow our footsteps, and I'm following Christ, then I can be rest assured that they are going to
Proverbs
walk.
22:6.
They are going to walk in such a way that is going to be honoring to God, that will develop them into who they're supposed to be. And so that's accountability for myself to be an example with my attitude. I love the fact that love fast, live slow for me personally always comes back to a matter of the heart, a matter of what's going on the inside will be displayed on the outside, no matter what. It's not surface level. What comes out of your mouth, what you do with your hands and your feet is not just in that moment. It means that there's something going on in your heart. And that teaching is what we can do with our children, whether super, super small or even older. If you're just now trying to get around to the idea of teaching biblical truth in your family, maybe you have in the past, well, realize that it has to start with your heart, your example, your submission to God. And then with that leadership, with that example, you can be you could be a fantastic example of what it means to be devoted to God, obedient to God with your attitude and your responses.
Yeah. One of the things that I really took to heart from listening to J.D. Greear and his wife the other day was that a lot of times the discipline that I give comes out of my own frustration and my own anger. Mm-hmm. I'm watching a football game. I'm a huge football fan and sports fan in general. I'm watching a football game. The kids are behind me, playing, they're fighting, they're doing what they normally do. They're being loud, and the loudness annoys me because I can't hear. It's not necessarily their misbehavior that gets to me, but it's the annoyance that gets to me. And then as soon as they do something that I have grounds for punishment on, I blow up on them. And I respond in my own anger, and I discipline them wrongfully for what I'm annoyed by, but not what they really should be disciplined for. And one of the things that he encouraged, and I love this, is that although discipline needs to be swift so that the kids connect what they're being disciplined for, we have to get past our anger first, because there's going to be times when we're angry at our kids. It's okay to be angry with your children. They're going to anger you. The scriptures tell us for fathers not to provoke their sons to anger in Ephesians chapter 5. I believe that's where it's at. But, it's easy for me to provoke my son to more anger when I grab him by the shoulders and I yell in his face because I'm angry. Like, that doesn't teach him anything except for to be angry like daddy is angry. And so I love that he said, you have to cool your own anger. You have to calm yourself down before you can effectively discipline your children.
You know how good God is that he has taught us that our children will match our level of emotions. And maybe it's every child. I'm sure it's every child. I don't know. All I know is my experience with my two little ones. But with Leland specifically, he matches the environment. He absolutely does. He, with his sensory struggles, if he's overstimulated, he will not regulate. If you walk into a classroom, walk into a playground, walk into whatever restaurant, there's a lot of loud noise, a lot of loud sounds, music, colors, flashing lights, Leland will go up. He will be on a high, and he will not regulate. We have to pull him aside, talk to him, make him look us in the eyes, walk him through, calming himself, processing all the things that are stimulating to him. In the same sense, in the heat of an argument or the heat of like us trying to guide him through a sense of correction, it's so cool to me that God knows perhaps where we were going to struggle, and he provided us with this amazing, brilliant child who we have got to control our attitude in order to teach him best. Because if we come at our kids high in anger, high in aggressiveness, high in vocal screaming, they will match that and it will not teach them anything. Now, some children might respond to that. Ours, we've learned, do not, because we've done it the right way and the wrong way. But Leland specifically, we love Everett too, I feel like. Leland and Everett specifically.
Everett's just easier to discipline because he responds. He responds to emotion. So when you let him know that upset me. Now, Everett has a little temper, but if I say to Everett, that hurt Daddy's feelings, he'll go, sorry, Daddy, sorry, Daddy, sorry, Daddy, and he'll come hug you. And so if you just a little pop on the backside, you can actually do it harder when you're playing and he laughs. But if you just, no sir, and just a little like that, I mean, it destroys his little world just comes crumbling down. So I just wanted to read this. I know I quoted it a minute ago. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. It says, Fathers, do not provoke your sons or your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So, what is the discipline and the instruction of the Lord? It's the scriptures. It's the same things that you and I are supposed to live by are the things that we're supposed to teach our children to live by. And the same decision processing that we use to make decisions is the same processing that we should teach them to use when they make decisions. The same consequential understanding that we have and why we have it is the same consequential understanding that we're supposed to communicate to them and help them to understand. But that's a lifelong process. Yeah. I mean, it's a 18, 20, 25-year process for... So
allow yourself grace.
Yeah.
Allow yourself grace and say, I know I'm going to screw up as a parent. Maybe I already have.
I'm still learning. I'm 34, so maybe it's a 34, 35, 36-year process.
I just think if we say, God, give us grace. God, let them not see our sinful nature, but let them see you in us. Just fix where we have failed. Like, please, God, have mercy on us and only demonstrate your example through us. And, I mean, ultimately, the only thing I know what to do is to pray. So that's kind of fitting because today's challenge, today's kind of extra perk, extra blessing that we wanted to leave with this Love Fast broadcast was to offer a prayer challenge. I kind of feel like I don't pray enough. I don't. I pray and I journal, but I know it's not enough. God says pray without ceasing. And so I want to commit to 7 days of legit, hardcore, like fervent prayer for my kids. Specific topics each day, specific time frames each day, maybe before my feet hit the ground, maybe in response to my attitude towards them. Maybe I would identify an area where I am weak as a mother, where I can improve to serve them better. Here's an example.
You're not praying for your kids in the sense that, hey, I wish Leland would be a better kid. I wish Leland would behave better. I wish Sally would not do this. You're praying...
You're not praying for their behavior.
Yeah, you're praying for their heart. You're praying for their relationship to Jesus, their relationship to you, and then you're praying for yourself. So really, this whole parenting thing there's a lot of prayer that goes into it. But you're praying to yourself, or to yourself? Don't pray to yourself. You really can't answer your own prayers. You're praying for yourself to be able to respond the way that God would have you to respond, but that he would call to remembrance in your mind the scriptures that will help you lead and gently guide, or swiftly kick in the tail when that's necessary. But that you would be the godly parent that God's called you to be. And parent the way that he intends for us to parent.
If you're a Love Fast, Live Slow insider, you already get our emails, you will get this for free. If you're not already an insider, please let us know. You can easily send us your email with the form below, because we would just want to keep in touch with you. We want to somehow provide a blessing. Yeah, there's going to be a link. So look, there's a link.
Hey, thanks for being on the Love Fast broadcast. We are excited. We love you. We'll see you next time.